Okay, well, welcome everyone to the great webinar we have jam-packed for you today. And so today's topic, and it's pretty fun stuff. It's all about business growth hacks, and it's all about the psychology of real business. So today we have the pleasure of Dr. Jeff Adams on the call with us, who is actually a clinical psychologist, and he's going to have some great insights, some great laughs, some great stories for us about what does all these growth hacks and psychology of business really mean? So let's get straight into it. So a little bit about who we've got on the call. So my name is Nathan Smith, one of the co-founders here with Smith Durant, and I focused on the business side of helping businesses. As you can tell, my southern accent, I am from lovely Australia. We've been here since 2007. And love what I do every day, just working with business owners, helping them take it to the next level. And my business partner with me, Michael Durant, tell us a little bit about you.
As Nate said, it's we think left brain, right brain, and I'm the right brain side of things, with more creative and looking at things as we like to say, intuition wise. Uh, we love being able to use the way we create plans for our businesses and our clients in the way that best suits them and help them. And my biggest thing is, what I love about this particular webinars is coming from a business owner and startup and living in that world. It's going to be key for you to understand how to break through some of the world stresses of business, and I think Jeff is going to be good to do that. So, and, I don't want to go too much in about me, but what Jeff is going to bring and his personality about it is going to be great.
Awesome. And thanks, Michael. And speaking of Jeff, welcome, Jeff, to the call. Thank you for being on it. Just, I guess, tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you're doing.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you for having me. And thank you for the very high expectations of humor. So, as you mentioned, is that I am a psychologist, trained as a psychologist. I'm currently not licensed here in Nevada, where I reside for the past 4 years. I've resided for the past 4 years with my partner, Barbara, also my spouse. We originally came from the Midwest, where we ran a number of mental health clinics for almost 30 years. And over here in Nevada, we run a very big mental health clinic called Oasis Counseling, which has over 25 providers and 9 administrative staff members. And we're located throughout the Las Vegas Valley and the west side of Vegas, east side, and in Henderson. And our job is more or less trying to sell it as a business model, where we work on trying to provide the best types of mental health services for the patients that come in here. But the business model wise is that we try to take a lot of the responsibility away from the provider so they can spend their time doing what they do best, which is providing. And in doing that, we have a lot of unique issues and areas that we work on. We also have another company called Oasis Innovations, which does the marketing side, as well as any type of, as the name would suggest, innovative projects we do in terms of trying to stay on the cutting edge of mental health. Awesome. And mental health for us basically is dealing with all populations, from children to geriatric.
Awesome. So. Well, thank you very much, Jeff, and I'm sure everyone's really excited about how all this is going to apply, how we hack our business and getting it to where we want to go. So it's going to be lots and lots of fun. Well, let's get straight into it, because I know our listeners' time is absolutely important. So as everyone can sort of see here or hear, it's all about where do we start. And there's a question I'd like to ask you, Jeff, and we can sort of start the ball rolling, and Michael, you can chip in at any time here, is that I guess start to talk us through, what does it take to actually hack your business to the next level? What are some of the things from a psychological level that it does to hack your business? What does it take? Walk us through.
Actually, Nate, I want to actually kind of spin it a little bit for Jeff.
Hmm.
What does it take to hack ourselves
Good point.
first so we can be prepared to actually hack our business?
Okay. Well, first of all, the population, the people that I'm speaking to today are people who are primarily either CIOs or business managers.
Yes.
Okay. Then I can give a no holds barred type of discussion.
That's it.
Well, I mean, the fact is that, you know, being the people who are on the very top of the food chain is that, you know, people don't always understand and don't really put into perspectives in terms of what type of a person it really takes to really either manage or run a business. And a lot of times we tend to really, you know, kind of downplay a lot of the things that we're doing as professionals. And if you think about it, is that the people who really run a business have certain traits. And I think one of the most common traits that everybody has is that they have, you know, a dream, and they've taken that dream to a level where they actually make that dream come true, or they're in the process of making that particular dream come true. And with that, there's a lot of personal issues that you call hack, that traits that we look at that really are most important for these people, that are exhibited not just in terms of business, but just in terms of everyday life. You know, these individuals are what we call in psychology a type A personality, and most of us know what that usually means. Type A are the people who push, shove. They're the natural leaders, they're the natural organizers. They're the people that basically have this agenda that they are driving to make their goals become a reality. Type B are more of the people, which is the majority of the population, the people who are more of the followers, the people who are there, who do, you know, the living in this world for the most part, who are very important, because if you don't have the people who are there who are willing to follow, there's no purpose of having somebody there to actually lead. But it's important to know exactly that you're in a unique situation. You have unique traits that really need to be honed for you to really increase the probability of your success.
Now, Jeff, let me ask you this question: Do you believe that a person that starts a vision or create a company, do they always have to have that A-type personality, or can they still do that, but also be willing to give it over to someone that actually can lead it?
Well, now that you've answered the question, yes. You are leading the witness. Yes. Yes, definitely, because, you know, we have to know exactly, you know, who we are and where we fall in terms of the issues and outskirts of life. Because, you know, the most important thing is really understanding the fact that we have to have ego strength. And ego strength really means is that an ego is your concept of self. Okay, that goes way, way back in terms of even the Freudian days of psychology, in case you're wondering, which you're probably not. But what we're looking at is that it's a concept of who I am, and having a healthy understanding of where I am in terms of how I perceive myself within my own world. And perception is really everything, because we need to have just such a strong attack concept of self that we need to have boundaries around that to protect ourselves. But we can't have so many boundaries that we become inflexible or narcissistic, self-centered, that we don't have the ability to be able to really deal with the various changes within the actual business environment or just within the world around us. So having that particular ego strength is really essential when it comes to really being able to succeed and move ourselves forward. And whether it's a type A personality with an ego strength, or whether it's a type B with an ego strength, you know, is that we have to have a good concept of who we are and where we're going. Because if we understand we have a type B personality, I'm not necessarily the greatest driver or leader, we need to basically find out who are those people we need to put in that position. You know, don't forget is that, You know, the people who really lead the companies are generally the ones we see in school in terms of their performance as being the B and C students, because they're the ones that are always thinking outside the box and doing things differently. And it's those A students, those brainiacs, are the ones that we usually have working for us later, and they're the ones that can press all the buttons for us.
Well, that's a real big reality check right there, because I was a BNC student, so that explains a lot.
There you go.
Yes,
indeed.
So when you say egoism, what is that definition? Because there's a lot of times we've been taught over time that, you know, having ego is bad, but I know there's a difference between being egotistical and having a great ego. What can you just define that a little bit more so those people that are listening know that?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. Ego strength, again, ego is nothing more than a concept of self. All of us have a concept of who we are, because if you think about it, okay, I'll get into just a little bit of psychology mumbo jumbo here. But if you think about it, our brains are trapped inside our skulls. Some skulls thicker than others, by the way. And within those skulls is that we get information from our senses. That information from our eyes and our ears, our touch, is basically transferred into a message into our brain. So we're basically in the dark. So we have to get a perception of how we see our real selves in terms of the world, because what really is going on in this world versus what our perception is oftentimes a major gap. So what we need to, if we have a healthy understanding of who we are, that's how we can understand where our own limitations are. That's how we can really understand where we are and where we need to go. And if we don't have that healthy understanding of ourselves, and unhealthy can go a number of different ways. It can go obviously one direction where you feel as though you have no idea who you are, where you're going. You're constantly upset about, you know, what's going on, what's happening. You feel threat sensitive. You feel as though that you're going to fall apart any moment. And then you can go the other side of the spectrum where you are narcissistic. And Narcissus was a Greek fable, mythology, where a gentleman was so entranced with his beauty that he fell in love with his reflection until he starved to death. And that's basically, we don't want to do that. We want to basically have a balance between those things so that we have a healthy understanding. And the problem is with people who are really good with their businesses, or I should say who are in charge of their businesses, not necessarily good with their own businesses. What they oftentimes find themselves doing is that they become so entranced with themselves, falling in love with their importance. I'm a CEO, that they basically don't realize that they are not really looking for the real problems, getting the real solutions, using the proper tools, the proper personnel, the proper structure that basically weakens their organization until the organization goes under, and of course then they take the time to blame everybody else.
You know, and there's been some of the biggest companies out there. I don't know if a lot of people know that even Google itself, once the founders and they sold and they got into it, they actually appointed someone else to become CEO so they can go and do what they actually love to do in the company. And also Elon Musk in Tesla, he actually did not become, I think he may have recently became back the CEO, but he actually put other people in charge of, you know, being CEO so he can go focus on other things inside of that company so that he knew it can grow better if he was in a certain position. So being able to look at your whole business and say, okay, listen, I know I'm an innovator. And if you're an innovator and you can't find yourself innovating anymore, then what happens to, you know, that side of you that has gotten you to where you are now? So being able to allow your ego to be confident, but not to get in the way of you growing your business. So, yeah.
Oh, true. In fact, I'm sure most of us are very much aware of the story, basically, that a company has its own growth cycle, just like human beings. It has beginning, a middle, and an end. And what happens oftentimes is that those individuals who start the organization, known as the entrepreneur, are very good at what they do. But once the organization reaches that growth level, is that the entrepreneur actually can get in the way of that particular growth to such an extent where the organization isn't able to move into its corporate phase, that they oftentimes are the ones that find themselves on the outside looking in. Steve Jobs is a perfect example of that.
Doesn't that relate to,
go ahead, Nate.
With a couple other words like communication and driving the business, how does that relate and tie into part of this ego strength?
Well, I think you're looking at basically is that, okay, the concept of self is one of the most important, is probably the most important issue when it comes to surviving in life, not to mention being successful within a business. You need to have a balance and a good concept of self. But you're correct, is that drive is essential. Organization, being able to really make sense out of the chaos is essential. And being able to communicate to others becomes the fourth pillar there that we're talking about. And communication, yes, go on.
No, I was going to say, because there's a point that you had made that you're almost on the outside looking in. And that can be a good thing sometimes, because it also can be that place where you realize your business has grown past you. I remember one day I was sitting in one of the companies we had started, and we had the whole team around, and everyone was talking, but no one was talking to me. It was almost like I wasn't there anymore, and not in a negative way. Mm-hmm. It had taken on its own life force, and for a moment, I got offended. I'm like, well, hold on. What about what I need to say about all this? But I realized, and I stepped back, literally, I kept quiet enough to step back and realize that it ain't about me anymore. The company has transitioned to something bigger than me. So how do you recognize those things when it's time to let the baby become the adult it was when you've been holding on to it as a baby?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, when I was talking about the outside looking in, I was referring to the ultimate outside looking in, meaning that you were no longer employed by that company. And 90% of the people actually lose their jobs who get themselves into these bigger organizations that see themselves growing. And that's because of the fact of exactly what you're asking about. Because of the fact that they have this, they feel so married to the organization that they feel like they have to control and micromanage every single aspect of the organization. In fact, a really good person at doing that was James Earl Carter, the President of the United States. And look at how well that helped us, because he got so caught up in the micromanagement that it was actually it was actually fabled that he was actually in control of the schedule for the White House tennis courts. You had to call him to be able to set up time to play on the courts.
Wow.
So that pretty much becomes almost like a Nero fiddling while Rome burns. And that we can get ourselves into those situations where we become so caught up in every single aspect of the organization that because you trust yourself. I've done everything. Nobody does it as well as I do it. So, of course, I'm going to have my hands in really everything. And that's great if it's a hot dog stand. But it's not good when you're getting yourself in an organization that has a plan that you're going to move to $1, $2, $3, $10 million a year in sales, that you can't do everything. And yes, it's difficult to really be able to find good key personnel. Yes, it's difficult to train them. Yes, it's difficult to create a whole system there. But that's why you need to really begin to really understand that, I have strengths in some areas, I have limitations in other areas, and the wisdom to know the difference to be able to do those things effectively.
Yeah, that's pretty important, understanding that wisdom. And even just sort of lastly on this is when you talked about the ego strength and you hit on communication. And communication is one of those, I think, big words. And I know you've often talked about how well is someone really listening? Do people listen when they're in the middle of doing something, or are they truly listening to you? What do you find your psychology around how to truly listen to someone in the communication world? Because I think that's a big part of a downfall in business owners.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes, I mean, communication is really, really best really expressed in terms of one's ability to listen and to comprehend. And if one can listen and comprehend, then they can and understand what the other person is saying. Then they can really find the proper words to get to that other party when it comes to communicating an idea effectively. And in doing that is that, there is a term that we use in psychology called active listening. And active listening is being able to focus expressively on that individual and understand from both verbal and nonverbal cues exactly what that person is saying. And understand exactly what that person is saying. The best example of that is that for those of us who have ever found love, and I know that Nathan, you're still looking for that in life, that
He's
that
available
what you're yeah, we'll be talking later, Nathan. So when you're dating somebody and you really find that real connection with that person. Do you ever notice that as you talk to that person, that everything around you just kind of silences and stops? You don't even hear what the waitress is saying or a waiter is saying. Again, I'm an older man, so I use the older terms. So in doing that is that you're focusing so much on that person, hearing everything with them, the time seems to fly by. You pick up every little bit of information. That's what active listening is. It takes a lot of energy. You feel very tired. We only do that if we're lucky, maybe 5% of the time when it comes to communicating. But the fact is that we need to do that when it comes to understanding when a situation is really important, when we need to really do that and do it appropriately.
Well, that's pretty cool. So it's not good if someone walks into your office and you keep doing something else while they're trying to talk to you. Not a good thing.
Yeah, that's usually a message. Like, get away from me, kid. You bother me.
Well, let me ask you this, Jeff. In your world, I mean, you took some big risk of going from your own practice to actually running. There's a slide for it. Running your own. And what was the points where you start listening to what the business was saying more than what you thought it was?
Mm-hmm. I noticed you have a picture of me on the cliff there.
I love the idea.
I don't know how you got that picture. So the risks obviously are minimized with very good understanding and planning of your product, and knowing, especially within mental health, that's obviously been something that's been a study of me for my life. And that has been really getting a really clear picture in terms of what is my market, what is my product, what am I trying to really do to motivate, to bring people to the organization, having good organization about every aspect of that business, which is reflected in a very detailed business plan. And when it comes to doing that, at least even for people like us in mental health, is that what we're trying to do is that we're trying to get the best picture we can so that we can actually minimize that leap. Because you just take a leap of faith and say, it's going to work, I can feel it. You've just, increased your probabilities for failure. And if you can reduce the chasm, the width of that chasm to maybe a couple of inches rather than a couple of miles, you will be successful. Now, obviously, there's things that always happen that we can never really quite understand, and that's obviously part of your ability as a human being to really learn how to adapt and deal with things. But if you have a pretty good understanding of what you're doing, you will have a success. And the funny thing I've noticed in terms of business plans, whether it's been mine or whether it's been patients or clients or whoever else that we've actually dealt with, is that even though they've put everything together, the plan in the end always seems to work, but there's always something that they overestimated on that was useful to help them on in the areas compared to what they underestimated on. And that's what really is, as long as you're really kind of, you're as realistic and you get as much information, not just in terms of from your source of what you're going out there and generating data from books, internet, wherever, but you also run this plan by as many people as you possibly can, not the yes men and yes women, but the people who really are going to sit there and criticize you, including whether it's especially somebody like a business coach, and I can only think of one business coach offhand that I would trust anybody to, and that would happen to be John Thompson. I'm sorry, Nate Smith. But you know, and of course, you got to make sure that even with the people who you trust, that you're going to make sure that you trust them because they have a very good record of success. Just like the commercials we see on television for the people who are people go in to see this financial planner. Financial planner is talking about, okay, would you be willing to risk all of your money with me? And they say, oh, yes, we would, because he's all like, you know, nice and neat. He's wearing a good suit and stuff. And you find out that the guy was actually worked as a video DJ, and that they were doing this just for the purpose of proving that if somebody, you know, acts like they happen to look like they know what they're doing, doesn't mean that they do.
Yeah, that's
what
cool.
we call face validity.
So
and that's why a lot of times you need to look at the people who you're going to trust, whether it's an accountant, whether it's going to be a business coach, whether it's going to be even somebody who's been a trusted advisor for years. Make sure that they also know their stuff too.
So one of the big ideas of a way to hack your business and to bring all that into perspective is, for one, is to not think about the future without thinking about a plan and actually putting that into a format that you can follow. You know, I call it calculated risk. And it's like, okay, we're going to make this change. We're going to do this. We're going to make, you know, staff change. We're going to implement new sales systems. It's knowing that there's an actual plan of action and a plan of attack. You know, a lot of times we do every quarter, we do 90-day planning. And it's our time to sit down with clients and say, okay, what do you want to see happen in the next 90 days? Because if you don't write it down, then you find yourself doing things all over the place and not even being in a place of being able to allow growth because you don't know what to do next. You're just doing a lot of different things. So one of the key things we like to say is when you're going to take the risk, make it calculated, plan it, and make sure that there's execution that goes along with that plan. And what you about to say, Nate?
I was just going to say that's almost like with Jeff. I guess what's the difference between risk versus carelessness?
Yeah. Well, of course, is that you know, the one area that's, or I should say, the one thing that's really great about psychology is that psychology is really a science, and it's really, you know, we're the guys that have come up with all the statistics. We're the ones that basically created all the tests. We created all the different things such as error and standard error measurement and validity and consistency and all these important terms. And the reason why we have is that we have learned a long time ago that it's important to gather as much data as you can, both positive and negative data, and really analyze that information as effectively as you possibly can. And that's what I alluded to earlier, when you not only do you look at that and you examine that and you look at other plans and other successes, and as well as people who've had problems, and know your strengths and know your limits, and know that you have a good team together, and know that you're doing things as logically as humanly possible. That's what really helps in terms of being successful. The carelessness is where you kind of go with that gut feeling, where you allow that emotion to take over. And what we talk also in psych is the issue of what we call cognitive psychology, which is the understanding and knowledge that it's my belief systems that really dictate my feelings, not the other way around. So we call it the ABC model. You know, a man named Albert Ellis brought this model up years and years ago, and it's been probably the most effective model within psychology in terms of thought process. And what the ABC stands for is A, for activating event, B, a belief, and C, consequence that follows a feeling. So what happens is that our beliefs can be rational, irrational, or a little bit of both. And it's really the belief that dictates the actual feeling based upon an event, an activating event. So if I hear a knock on the door, as an example, I can, let's say, the activating event is a knock on the door. And if I, let's say, a belief, I have a rational belief, there's a tiger behind that door. My consequence is going to be a feeling, I'm scared. Well, if you say to me, Dr. Jeff, don't be scared. There's no tiger. It's not going to change my feeling. Changing my feeling is changing my belief. If I can convince myself, either through you or through other sources, that's just my receptionist, then what's going to happen is that my feeling will change. What people do oftentimes within business is that they allow their feelings, they think, really dictates their beliefs. So I got a feeling this business is going to work. I got a feeling that if I put all my money on black on the roulette table, I'm going to make $1 million. And what happens? Now they got to deal with the reality that their feelings were
explains a lot of why
associated with rationality. Yes, well, it also understands everything else because everything is a gamble, and it's not just the roulette table. In reality, it's a figurative roulette table that we play within life, where it's like, I'm going to really make, I'm going to make $100 million on this company. Okay, what's your plan? I don't have a plan. I know it's going to work.
So, and
you've seen that. We've all seen that.
I think you've said this before. To summarize that, it's like know the variables you can control, and you risk what you can't control.
Right, the Serenity Prayer, which is, realize what you can control, what you can't control, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
For those of you who are not religious. So.
Well, that sort of moves us into our next section of, a lot of people may be thinking to themselves, well, when is it time to get help? And I guess what is help? I know we've talked before about, that there's help in the terms of getting mentors in your business, getting teachers, instructors, or specialty people in your business. But then there's also like what you do, which is, do I need help within myself? So I guess just walk us through what's the typical thing business owners might be thinking, and when is it time to get help?
Right, especially when all of us believe that we're well above average when it comes to really everything. And the fact is that we're all human beings, and we all have different things affecting us on a day-to-day level. And it's very hard to really get your job accomplished and to do the things that even create change, which creates a lot of discomfort, if you are not well balanced. And balance means a balance between my mind, my body, and my spirit. And when to get help is really based upon is a really recognition of having, first of all, of making sure certain that you're doing the things necessary to take care of yourself regularly. Try not to really get yourself into situations that are just too complex, too complicated for you. Because complication creates just a lot of issues. Knowing that you have a good sense of reality testing, meaning that you've got people around you who can tell you that, hey, Dr. Jeff, you don't look too good, or you're not feeling too good, are you? And really kind of answering those questions that are really necessary. But there are certain signs that we can pick up that notices if we do need help, and it usually resides within more of the simplest areas, such as we talk about areas in terms of anxiety and agitation. And we all know that a little bit of anxiety is good for performance, but if you get a little bit too much anxiety, too much agitation, too much stress, which is the wear and tear on us caused by all the demands upon ourselves within life, what happens is that we do notice a real breakdown. I said, I can't think. We've all had that for exams where, you know, you were so over-prepared or so nervous that you sit there and your mind just becomes a blank. Well, that becomes a sign that you feel that way more often than not. Looking at your behaviors in terms of your sleeping. Am I having difficulties with sleep all the time? Am I sleeping too much or too little? Is my appetite changing? Am I changing in terms of my physical condition? I'm not taking care of myself appropriately. Do I notice these mood swings? Am I getting really angry at things? Because anger, of course, is a sign that I don't have any power. And what you're saying when you're angry is, I have no power. And that doesn't help. So it's really trying to understand just a little bit of these things of that. More often than not, are these things affecting me? More often than not, am I doing things without getting any type of resolution? And if I'm doing that to myself, obviously that's a sign that I probably need to start talking to either initially friends, and if my friends are saying, give me the reality standpoint, or family that there's something wrong, then yeah, I need to see either, you know, go talk to a psychologist or go talk to your physician and find out what's going on. But realize these things are oftentimes a sign of something much more sinister. And it's not something that we can deal with by just popping a couple pills. It's about really being able to create that organization. So as I said earlier about the importance of success in the business is about ego strength, drive, communication, and organization. Organization, a lack of organization creates a problem. In fact, we talk about some of the major illnesses like schizophrenia is really all about having a complete disorganization of one's thoughts. So what we're talking about here really is that when I notice that things are really kind of off kilter, yeah, I need to, just like I need a consultant in terms of the business, I need a consultant when it comes sometimes to basically talk and help organize some of my thoughts. Not about saying I'm crazy. It's about saying that I'm smart enough to say that I don't want my life to be crazy. So I'll stop there, otherwise I'll go on for hours.
so one of the things is that you're saying is, as business owners, managers, that we don't just have to just look at, which I find is a more of an underlying saying, is you don't just look at how to do good at business. You got to know how to do good at yourself so that you can actually do good business. Because so many times we're out there learning about how to do marketing. We're learning about how to do business plan, but we don't even realize, and Jeff, we've talked about this a lot, even, you know, we're talking about doing, you know, type of programs for entrepreneurs and business owners, because we don't go seek even mental health, because you don't realize you can't even get past your own mental stability to actually get to a place to actually grow your business and hack it to take it to that next level. So
yes, I think you understand, Grasshopper.
It's
because you know, what it's about is that what you're saying is balance. We need balance in ourselves, and that balance is also thus reflected in our organization. If we have no balance within ourselves, good luck having balance within the organization.
Oh, that's interesting.
And, you know, and I'll add to this, because there were so many times, you know, when you live in this world of business and entrepreneurship, there's a lot of times, you know, we have that I'm alone complex. It's just me that's going through this. And I don't know what that is. You know, but I realized in the same instance, as I was going through some of my business growth and learning, that there was some mental and health things that was going along with me. And I would definitely say, if you're in a particular position, you have to look at your whole being, you know, to truly know where you are and where you want to go next, instead of just saying, oh, let me go take another class. That'll make me better so I can get that promotion, or I can get the company to the next level. But to say, okay, have I actually gotten rest? So I can actually think the next day? Or am I even wanting to do this business anymore because my quality of life sucks? Because this is not what I thought it was going to be, and being able to, you know, move on and let go and do those things. So I totally agree with what you're saying. And I definitely believe where we are right now in business and entrepreneurship, there has to be I guess you can call it more of a holistic approach to becoming that ultimate leader.
Right, as opposed to not only being a narcissist oneself that we try to really avoid, except for surgeons, is the narcissism that we're looking at really in terms of a company. Because think about it. Oh, everybody, who's listening today, hopefully there's more than just you and I, that what we're looking at here is that our companies are so important. Everybody wants to believe what you do is so important because it goes back to you and your concept of self. I mean, who wants to live life thinking that what I'm doing isn't important in some way? But what happens is we can go to a point where it becomes overly important. Let me just put something into perspective that will just kind of, probably has nothing to do with this, or maybe it does, but Carl Sagan said, if you look at the starriest of starry nights, and you take a handful of sand, there are more grains of sand in your hand than all the stars you can see. But in the Milky Way galaxy, there are more stars than all of the grains of sand on our planet. And there are at least, what do they say, something like 100 trillion galaxies that we know within our known universe. So when you think of that, it kind of makes you realize is that, yeah, it's important to really kind of do things and to kind of accomplish things, but really in terms of the whole concept of our own existence, it's important, but not at the importance that we sometimes give it. And we need to really look at maybe taking some time to look at the stars once in a while.
Totally agree with that. Totally. And now in Vegas, you can't really see them. So if you catch that one, just focus on that one for a really long time.
Well, I thought I saw Tim Allen the other day, so in terms of stargazing. So,
so my final thought just to that is even just from my own experience, as business owners and leaders, it's amazing, like when you take care of your own body, you do better at business. And you go, hang on, there's obviously some correlation there. Like, I know when I'm eating healthy and working out, that being a business leader, manager, driving the business has a whole different direction than if I'm feeling lethargic and, eating too much food. And I go, oh, isn't that interesting? So great points.
Oh, yeah. Balance.
Yeah. And I guess it's, we talk about it, and it's, I guess, back to your ego strength of looking at yourself and what are you prepared to do it. So, which leads us into our, sort of last section here, which is, I guess, all about overcoming limitations. And I like this little saying here that says, if we did all the things we are capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves. So maybe as sort of a summary is what are some of the hacks we can do, I guess, to overcome our own limitations and things we've talked about today? What would be some of your recommendations here, Jeff?
Well, I think part of it is again, going back to the concept of the ego and one's perceptions. And I think, a lot of times is that, we even use the term limitation because we used to use the term weakness. And that, of course, are both kind of, wrongly stated. I think what it is that what we're looking for ourselves is that we're looking for growth. And oftentimes is that I become an expert in psychology because I've given up something else along those same lines. And that, obviously the very best person we can be is somebody that really looks at life as not being that when I do stuff, when I learn things, is that when I get to my destination, it's the end of my journey, looked at it as a beginning. For those of you who do know me, I have a black belt in the martial arts. And that was one of the things that I talked about was that, it wasn't like I was done with that. After I received my first black belt, the first degree, that was basically, to me, the meaning that I was just beginning in that particular travel. And it's something that, we need to know is that, it's not like Nate when you became a business coach or Michael when you became the marketing executive that you are is that you didn't say, well, I'm there, so I'm done. I can rest on those particular laurels. And what we need to look at in terms of those so-called limitations is that we need to, first of all, understand how much of a limitation is it. Like for me, I couldn't play a guitar if my life depended upon it. I just don't have the cognitive ability. But I do know some people that can play a guitar. And of course, I have a lovely voice, so I sing along with them. And whether or not you think I have a good voice or not is inconsequential. But the point is that it's really about is using the people, using the resources, using the things to help us. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to be a Renaissance man or woman, a well-balanced person, and that's what we try to really do. But the fact is that our world is too specialized. There's too many things, too many variables. It's all a wonderful journey, wonderful thing to experience and do, but we need to have the right people or right things around us. And that's how we basically look at it, is that you got to be open, you got to utilize things, you got to work on your particular growth, but you also need to understand where those limits are and try to use things to kind of help overcome those limits, whether it's personally or with the resources around.
Sounds like what you're saying is even, as long as you understand what your even limitations are, I think is even a good head start. Because a lot of people may not even know what they are and pick which ones you want to develop or not.
Right. Well, the problem is this, more than anything, and unfortunately, this isn't for this audience, okay? Because the fact that you people are actually listening today say that, you know what, I have the understanding that I am still growing and I'm still developing, and I'm open to suggestions. I'm open for my personal growth. It's those who are not listening today, who think they know everything, or think that they're the best of the best. Those are the people that I am most concerned about. And unfortunately, we can't get to them.
Yes, definitely that attitude of I know versus I'm willing to hear what you have to say. Yeah, they're very powerful.
Correct. In fact, the makings of an intelligent man or woman is not the knowledge of what they know, but the realization of all the things that they do not.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for that. Those words that you've been so powerful, understanding just the psychology of what we need to do. So I guess, again, Jeff, as a wrap up, I guess, for today, what would be some of your just final thoughts for our listeners around, applying what you've talked to us today, just final words about what they can do to take that and go apply in the real world?
Sure. Of course, I won't do it in rap style, even though you asked me to. So the most important aspect is within business is understanding yourself, understanding that you are somebody who is continually trying to keep yourself in balance. And it is about your concept of self-ego and the strength of that particular ego, your drive, your ability to organize, your ability to communicate, your ability to utilize individuals as human beings who are here to help you, as well as you helping them in terms of getting caught up in that idea, that drive of what the organization really stands for. And if we can do that, and we can understand ourselves and do the things we need to do on a fairly regular basis, and be open to those things, and be well planned, and have a good idea of where we are now, where we've come from, and where we're going to be, you will increase your probability of success. End of story.
That's awesome, Jeff. That's awesome. One of the big things that we always want to make sure that everyone's listening is that you truly understand that, you don't have to be alone in this. It's so many people out there that are willing. Jeff actually took time out of his busy schedule, running three or four locations, to be able to say that these are the things that we all deal with. And if you look at it, even scientifically, there's ways to get help, find out what the problems are, and be willing to face them as business owners and entrepreneurs to take us to the next level. Because, business is changing, and we have to be willing to change with it. You can change organically, you can be forced, Or like Jeff said earlier, you can be on the outside looking in and watching someone else doing your vision, or watching the thing that you actually create running without you, period, without you. So, one of the big hacks today you should take away is be willing to open yourself up to learn so that you can grow. That's the one thing I will leave you with, Nate. Learn, open yourself up, reprogram so that you can get to that next level.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, again, thank you for everyone listening today. Again, we've got our lovely mug shots up on the screen here of myself and Michael, and hopefully you've taken some great little nuggets from today, whether it's just one thing you can walk away with. Jeff's given us some great things, and one thing I wrote down here was about it's really understanding your own mind, body, and spirit of how it's almost like how you are at home is how your business is going to be. I think that was really huge, So look at your own business and look at your own life and say, well, does my business look the same? And that's pretty powerful. So again, if anyone would like to just sit down or have a chat with us, that's what we do. Michael and I are always up for lunch or coffee, or being an Aussie, I'm always up for a beer or a drink. So either or is good. I know, Jeff, you're always up for a good drink. So
yes. Well, I can vouch for these gentlemen's character. They're fantastic human beings, and one of the most difficult issues that besets people who work in business are basically finding people who you can trust. And I can tell you that I can trust these individuals wholeheartedly.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jeff. So again, thanks, listeners. And again, you've got all our details there if you'd like to sit down and have a chat with us. And we look forward to seeing you on one of our next upcoming webinars. Other than that, have a good day. And thank you, Michael, for also being on as well.
Until next time.
Thank you.